So the first story I want to talk about is Twitter and how it got started and how it became a big deal when we came here and then what happened afterwards. So I quit Google and joined up with Evan Williams to build this startup called Odeo, which was a podcasting startup. We thought we were on a car ride home from Google one day, and I said, wait a minute, you can record your voice in Flash. And he was like, yeah. And I was like, could we convert that to an MP3? And then can't you attach it to an RSS feed? And couldn't you then write just a client that just takes the MP3 and like puts it in this new thingamajiggies called iPods? And we could democratize audio just like we were doing with Blogger, but with text. And he was like, oh my God, that's genius. We have to do that. It turns out it was called podcasting and other people were doing it, but but we thought we were geniuses for like, a day, which was a good feeling. So Evan had this great idea, which was, look, we're not supposed to do this because we raised money to build a podcasting service, but there's about 12 of us. Everybody pair up and just work on something that you want to work on that lights a fire for you and is interesting to you. And I had become very good friends with an engineer we hired at Odeo named Jack Dorsey. Jack Dorsey had a history in writing software for taxi cabs and dispatch software for taxi cabs and ambulances and police cars and all this stuff. And he really loved it because for him it represented the kind of the pulse of a city. Like when he looked at all of his dispatch software, everyone checking in and stuff, he was like, wow, you can sort of see a living, breathing city with this software that I've created. And when we met, and I told him that I had started Zanga.com back in 1999, which was a very early social, basically a social blogging community, he said, oh, you have experience with like social stuff. And then at the same time, text messaging was becoming popular in the United States. And in 2004 or 5, the different carriers decided that they would let text messages go between carriers, which was a big deal. And so we got together and we said, look, could we smush this idea of text messaging together with this idea of dispatch and make it somewhat social? And so we got together and we took the 2 weeks that Ev gave us to work on a prototype, and we built the prototype, and we shared it with our friends who were also building prototypes. They were building productivity apps and so forth. And we got kind of a ho-hum reception from our colleagues because they were like, it's not very fancy. It's like, shouldn't it do video or something like that? And we were like, no, it's really cool because this text messaging is this rudimentary service, and it's really like not really used for very much, but it's this really broad network. It's on every mobile phone, even the lowest common denominator phone. And so we got really excited about it, and so we started working on it, and there was a lot of little key indications early on that were just making me sort of giddy and giggle with it. Like, I remember during the prototype phase, I had watched enough Bob Vila as a kid to think that I could do some home maintenance on this little 400-square-foot house my wife and I had bought in Berkeley. I decided to rip up all the rugs to uncover the hardwood floors underneath. There were no hardwood floors underneath. And not only that, there were things underneath there that I don't want to talk about. I'm still scarred. And just for FYI, if you ever want to rip up wall-to-wall carpeting, they nail it down like every millimeter. It's ridiculous. So I was sweating. I was killing myself. I'm hunching over, and my phone vibrates in my pocket. It's an update. It's an early form of a tweet from Ev that says, "Sipping Pinot Noir after a massage in Napa Valley." And so I start laughing out loud. My wife thinks I've gone insane. But I'm laughing out loud, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm experiencing joy from this thing that we're working on. I am using the product, and I'm delighted by it, and I'm loving it, and a million other little things like that were happening that just kept us working on it, despite the fact that almost everyone we talked to thought it was a really dumb idea. In fact, the biggest critique the loudest critique of Twitter was Twitter is not useful. To which Evan responded, well, neither is ice cream. Should we ban ice cream and all joy? What's the, why are we busting our balls? Why can't we just make this, you know? Enough already, you know? And we really just weren't paying attention to all these folks. One person actually had said, Twitter is like the Seinfeld of the internet. It's a web service about nothing. And I love Seinfeld, so I put that on the front page as like a testimonial. I thought it was great. But I also put my phone number on the front page for if you're having any problems, and that became an issue later. But anyways. So we're working along, we're having a lot of fun. You know, all these little things are happening with earthquakes and people checking in, and it's turning out to actually be useful in a lot of little cases and so forth. But then when we came to South by Southwest in 2007, that's when something happened. Something big happened. This is when the proverbial tingles went down our spines. It was a really big deal for us. And the two stories that I remember, and my memory may have made these stories more mythical than they originally were. So just, you know, take them with a grain of salt. But the first story was I was in an audience like you guys, and I was listening to a panel, and all these people just started getting up, leaving. And it was almost like there was a PA system that had said, everybody leave. But there was no PA system. I was like, what is the deal? And I had been going every year, and I'd never seen anything like it. And it turns out people were using Twitter on their mobile phones and their laptops to communicate with each other that there was a much better panel going on across the hall. And so they just all went over there. And when I learned about that, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then the even more amazing thing that happened was, there was a guy at a pub, and I might have this screwed up, but I think it was Scott Beal, or it was either Scott Beal from Laughing Squid, or he told me the story, and I might be totally wrong. But the point is, there was a guy at a pub, and it was really loud. And you guys know the whole point of South by Southwest is not just to see the panels and stuff. It's the party, and it's the network, and it's to meet with the people that you theoretically should meet all the time with in San Francisco and stuff, but you just don't. And so they're all in one place, and you're seeing them. And so this guy at a pub was like, look, he sent out a tweet that said this pub, and by this time, by the way, we had like 5,000 people on the system. So, and those 5,000 people were like all the dorks that go to South by Southwest Interactive. So it was like perfect, you know? It was like in the wild for the first time. And so he sent out a tweet saying, this pub's too loud. Let's go to this quieter pub, and he named the pub so we can talk. And in the 8 minutes it took him to walk over to that pub, 800 people had shown up. There was a line out the door. It was totally full. And so his plan absolutely backfired, because what had happened was he had sent out a tweet. Other people retweeted it, forwarded it, whatever. And like word got out, and all these people just converged on this place. And when I learned about this, what came to my mind was the concept of a flock of birds moving together in flight around an object. And this is something that looked like a telephone pole or something. And this is something that looks so incredibly choreographed. It's beautiful. It looks like they must have planned this for weeks. And in fact, the mechanics of flocking are very simple. It's rudimentary communication among individuals in real time that allow the many to behave for a few minutes or a few seconds as if they were one. And this happens in nature, but I kind of was overwhelmed because I couldn't think of any tool or service that allowed this power to be in the hands of humans. And yes, we were at a party, but what if it had been something serious? What if it had been a disaster or something else? And that's when the chills were like, oh my God, this could be a powerful new source of communication that could really transform the way we as people can move together and get things done quickly. And I just got really excited about it. And I think it was like well, 2 days later, when we got home to San Francisco, we actually formed Twitter Inc. Like, up to then, it was a side project of Obvious Corp, of which we had multiple projects going. But we were like, that's it. We're a company, and this is our thing. And everybody at Obvious Corp, do you want to work here? Yes. Okay. Boom. We're doing it.